Okay, part 5. A struggle in life looking for Christ. This has been my entire life. I'm here at the hospital.
You've got mail.
I'm in the courtyard trying to figure out when I'm going to go in and see my surgeon to look at the infection to see how we're doing and what the next steps are. Hopefully it's good news. Pray for this old man. It's been a tough last few months with this car accident. But yeah, so now in part 5, I'm going to explain to you that I had figured out, how to make money and how to avoid school. And that didn't last too long. I ended up getting a couple other jobs and making some money, and eventually were moved from that home and placed into another home. And that home was similar, was a family that had brought me in, and there was a couple other people there and that weren't family, just similar to me. But they were kind of strict, and I don't know. It was okay. I enjoyed them. I thought they were good people. They liked me. The father of the house would take me to his job. He would clean banks at night, not clean them out, not robbing them, but scrub the floors and clean the banks and do those kind of things. And he would take me with him to go do that and hang out with him, and he really liked me, which most people, to be quite honest with you, in my life, liked me as far as personality and as far as who I was. People took to me in this life. But when they found out that I had a spirit of not adhering to being controlled or indoctrinated, pushed into things, the fact that they liked me didn't matter. They couldn't have that. And I found out in life very, very quickly that people do like to control other people. I'm going to get into the psychology behind that and how that happens and why that happens, because it's got a lot to do with the personal ego, which I'm going to get into. Ego, by the way, means edge got out. So now I'm back in this other home and other people in my life. My life is chapter after chapter is a whole new life. It's the removal of the past and the bringing in of the present, which is always different from what I had experienced. So I go through a whole plethora, a whole list of experiences in this new home with this new family. And they, like I said, they were disciplinaries. They liked discipline. They liked things their way. There was another kid there, Leo, a young black guy that was also there, and he had ran away, which gave me my first understanding of just getting up, walking out of a place and not coming back, running away from it, which became a theme in my life. Running away from problems, running away from people, and giving up. And rather than going through the circumstance in life and learning from it, running away from it, looking for that greener grass on the other side, which I think most of us at this point in life have figured out the grass is never greener. It's just different grass. And so one night I'm in my bed down in the basement of this new home, and Leo had ran away, I guess weeks or so earlier. I had concluded in my thoughts that I was going to do the same thing, and ended up going downtown Toronto. And that was my first experience of the street life, living on the streets and meeting people and becoming a criminal, to be quite honest with you. And I'm going to get deeper into that and where that took me throughout my life. So now I'm a young guy. I'm on the streets. I'm learning how to hustle money, how to survive. Some nights no place to live. Some nights you'd make enough money to be able to get a hotel room or hang out with somebody that you've met. And so I did that for several months, only to find out that a friend of mine, when I was living in that group home that I had ran from, had convinced me to go to his group home, of which he had keys for. And I guess the people that ran that group home were gone on a vacation, and we went in and took all of their alcohol and threw a great big party. And I didn't realize he was arrested for breaking and entering, that he had broke into, that he had keys, but he wasn't living there anymore, and he never told me that. And he told the police that I was the one that broke in to that house. In fact, I followed him under the assumption that he was still living there. So I had called the group home that I had ran away from and spoke to those people, trying to stay in touch, considering possibly going back because it was getting rough in the streets. It was starting to snow. It was cold. And they said, well, you got to come back because the police are looking for you. And they explained to me what had happened. The police had come to the house looking for me because of this break and enter. And so I had to go home and deal with that. And I went back to the group home, and the police came and arrested me. And I spent the night in jail, and they ended up giving me bail. And I went back to that group home and stayed there again for some time. And it was my first experience with being arrested, my first experience with having to deal with the police. And I didn't even know I had done anything wrong, to be honest with you. I had no idea that I had broken into a place and stolen stuff that wasn't mine. I was, call me naive, call me stupid in those years. I trusted my friend, and he went and told the police that it was me that had done it. And after, several months of being in the group home waiting for court and trial, I ended up pleading guilty and getting probation, where I had to go and see a probation officer once a month. For I think about a year, I got a year's probation. And that was my first experience with ever being arrested and having to go to jail. And eventually I ended up leaving that group home again and going back down to the streets because I had a connection there now. My soul had become delusional in believing that with the people that I had met on the streets and that life, that I had found family. And that the street people that I was now involved with were now my family. And I missed it. And I can remember sitting in the group home and back in school and hating it and constantly thinking about, that experience that I had on the streets and wanting to get back to it. And the weather was clearing up. It was spring. And I ended up going back down onto the streets, running away from the group home again, and started living that life for quite a while. Then, in that process, during that time on the streets, I ran into my friend Angel that I spoke about in the very first group home after the orphanage. He was on the streets, and I had ran into him and started hanging out with him. And he started calling me Ace. And Ace became my nickname on the streets. And I got very deeply involved in the streets. On this return to the streets, it became what would end up being my life for a very long time. And I'm going to get into that in the next video. But what a journey, ending up on the streets and feeling as though I was part of something that I had been looking for my whole life. Recognition, respect, acceptance, and being a part of a family. The street people became my family, and I became very respected in that life, of which I'll take you the journey. I'll take you through the journey of how all that happened. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that and let you digest it. Be blessed.